Hey guys, I am Ian K. So in this video, I'm going to showcase the highest damage unkillable team pre-Ninja that Hal Hades actually showed in his video, but I haven't actually showcased this team before in his channel or my channel, and I've gotten a lot of requests to show this team, so here it is right now. So I was actually waiting to show this team, to make a video on this team when my clan boss was at a right affinity, and for over the past few days, my clan boss has always been a negative affinity for this team, the worst affinity. But then I figured maybe I can just do the showcase right now to show this team performing in the worst affinity to show what it's at worst, what can it do? So the team I'm talking about is the Fu-shan team, the Fu-shan Turvold team that I have right here. This one right here. So I have Fu-shan, Turvold, Seeker, and Double Man-Eater. So this is a 2-to-1 team with Seeker. Fu-shan is here to provide the speed aura, so everyone's speed can be lowered. Then Seeker enables the 2-to-1 with his increased turn meter, and Turvold is actually the key in this team. That is able to make this team function. Without the Turvold, the speeds of all the champion will be a bit different, or specifically the DPS Turvold itself will be different. So there is an option without Turvold, but the speeds are completely different, and I don't think, and I've tried it with other champions, but the other champion just doesn't perform as well as Turvold. It still works, it's still one keys, but it doesn't do as high damage. All right, so I can go over quickly the gear that they have and then I'll showcase the run. So first, I'll just start with the bottom. We have Seeker. So Seeker is at 230 speed, 100% crit rate, 230 crit damage with 3.8k attack. I have him in Toxic set since this team does not have any Toxic at all, and he is the lowest speed in this team. So I put him in Toxic. His masteries, you got the standard counter attack mastery with Life Drinker and the counter attack retribution. I also had requests from people to show my gear because they want to see what kind of gear I have as a reference, so I'll just go over them quickly so you can take a look. All right, next is the two man-eaters. So these two man-eaters, they have the exact same mastery, just the standard clan boss, counter attack, and war master mastery. So both of them exactly the same. And then for their stats, so they both of them needs to be at 287 speed. Um, One is at 287, one is at 288, but they have to be 287 or above. And these speeds actually matter. So you can only beat at 287 if you have one speed set. If you have two speed sets, like this one here, you have to be 288. This is because of the decimal that you get from the speed set. So this is actually it's 287 point something. So that's the difference here. So both of them are at the required speed. So this is their stats. Again, 287, 100% crit rate. I try to get as much attack and crit damage as I can. Here, 288. This one has two speed sets. So that's why it's at 288. So 2.8k, 100% crit rate, 161 crit damage. Then I'll show over the gear quickly. Okay, now I'll go to Turvold. So Turvold, he is in Retaliation set and One Piece Cruel. And he has 198 speed, 70% crit rate since he buffs his own crit rate, 270 crit damage, and enough accuracy to place his weaken, 5.7k attack. Same here, his masteries, the same standard clan boss masteries with counter attack. Then I'll go over his gear quickly. So I found that retaliation gear is the best set for Turvold in this comp because he places his weaken on his A1, and I found that he doesn't place his weaken that often, despite having such a high percentage. So retaliation helps in that, making him counterattack more often and having a higher chance to place his weaken. And he also deals a lot of damage from his A1 as well, so that's a big plus. Finally, we have Fu-shan. So the unique thing about this comp is that Fu-shan can be geared in Relentless set. So I'll show, after I show everyone's stats and gear, I'll show the speed tune so you can take a look. So he has 5.4k attack, 213 speed, 86% crit rate, 265 crit damage, and enough accuracy to place his decreased defense, which is important to this team. So his going over his gear. And again, the same clan boss masteries for all the champions. All right, so I'll show the speed tune for this specific team. So these are the speeds that I have. 213 Fushan, 287, 287, 198, 230. So as I mentioned before, the 287 I had on my man-eater had one speed set, and the other had two speed sets. So you can see, if you have two, so I have two speed sets on that man-eater, and actually it looks like it worked. 287 works. So okay, yeah, so they both of them have to be at 287 speeds. So yeah, so it looks like it works. So basically this is how the speed tune works. So it starts off with uh 1 for 1, then once two turn delay on Seeker, which is here. 2 turn delay, he uses his A1. The first man eater delay here, one delay on the first man eater, then 3 delay on the second man eater. So this one here it places first, places second. Then after this man eater places, Turvold has to use his A1. Once he uses his A1, then you can set the run on auto from then, which I will demonstrate in the once I do the run. So this is just a simple delay. So just a 3 turn manual, and then it's full auto from there. And I mentioned before that Fushan can be relentless. This is because all the man eaters for the entire comp, they are the last to place the unkillable. So they always place unkillable last. So if Fushan goes gets relentless in any point in this time, it doesn't matter since it's always he always goes before the man eater. So all the unkillable happens last. Right? And the speed ranges here, they also have a kind of a speed range, so you don't have to follow this exact speed. So for Fushan, the lowest you can go is 213. So you can see once I go below, the whole speed tune changes. But in 213, you can go higher, 214, 215, 216, to up to 218. Okay, so 219, it's starting to change. So it's up to 218. So this is the range, 213 to 218. Even Turvold, he has wiggle room as well. He can go as low as 191. At 198, the tune starts to change. So you can plug these numbers into the calculator. Then you can just, once you gear your champion, you find the speed, just plug it in to see if it still works. So yeah, so Turvold works up to 198. So something changed there, so maybe it's not working. Oh, but down here it still works. So yeah, he has a big range. So you can see how you gear your Turvold. Same with Seeker, doesn't change. Okay, change at 234, so he can be up to 233. All right. So yeah, here's the speed tune. Just quickly again. Yep. So that's it. So you can just copy it, and this comp works on Nightmare. Exact same setup. So exact same setup everywhere. So it works on Nightmare. Same with the same setup, same speeds. And on Brutal, it doesn't work on Brutal, but I found that I just hit auto on Brutal and it still gets the one key for Brutal. So it doesn't really, you don't really have to go the entire uh, 50 turns to get your one key. You get well, one key at around turn 20 or so. Or even less than that actually. So you don't have to worry. I just run it and hit auto. All right, so these are the speed tunes. I'll have a link in the description of the speed tune so you can just copy it. All right, back to the run now. So as I mentioned before, Spirit Affinity is the worst affinity in this comp because Fu-shan is Force Affinity. So Fu-shan has a much lower chance to place his decreased defense because it can get resisted and weak hits, of course. Um, Magic is the best affinity for this comp. Force is in the middle since Seeker is weak affinity, but Seeker is not the biggest damage dealer here. So the best affinity for this comp is Magic, Force being second, and Magic being the worst. All but this comp still one keys on all affinity regardless. So now I'm showcasing this team in the worst possible affinity to show how this comp works. So there is something you have to set in AI preset as well, and that is for Fu-shan. We don't want Fu-shan to use his A2 at all. His A2 is his worst ability, and it deals the least amount of damage. His A1 deals a ton of damage, so I cancel out his A2 just so he uses his A3 and his A1. Everyone else, uh, you don't have to set the AI preset. I set it up just so I could auto the first round. So the first round he'll A1, first round he'll A1, but you still have to manual eventually. So it's up to you if you want to do this or not, but this is just my preference. But most important is to cancel, to not use Fushan's A2. All right, I'll start the run. So this is what I'm talking about. So I can auto the first round. So they do everything that I set up. There you can see all weak hits on Fushan. He did not place his decreased defense at all. So that is what happens throughout the run. So now this is the second turn, so I'll have to manual. I'll follow the speed tune. So A3. So Seeker is delaying for one more turn. All right. So you'll notice here that Maneater, when he will have to use his A1 here, but he will lose this uh, unkillable and block debuff. So he will get the decreased speed debuff on him, but it still doesn't matter. So on affinity, it doesn't matter at all. So decreased speed does not affect the speed tune. He will go back in tune. So Fushan getting extra turns here. The same with Fushan. If Fushan gets an extra turn there and then decreased speed lands on him, it doesn't matter. The speed tune will still work. All right, so Turvold A1's here. Once he A1's here, you can set it on auto. So now I'll just show the run a little bit, and I'll show that the Maneater it's still in tune. He will still use his unkillable at the same uh, turn. Yep, see, everyone is still in tune. Everyone still has their unkillable. So yeah, so I'll just let this run go. Let it run until the end. I'll just kind of speed up the run, let you watch it, and I'll come back once the run ends. Yep, there you have it. 112 mil on my worst affinity. So this is how it performs on the worst affinity. Usually it at the lowest I've seen is probably about 100 mil. So this is one of the higher runs I've seen on a bad affinity. So this is my current record that I have on Magic Affinity, basically 129 million. So this is how much I'll do on the best affinity, and this is the worst affinity. All right. Yep. So once again, I'll just go over my champions quickly. Turvold, 5.7, 70%, 270. Fu-shan in Relentless, 5.4, 265. Both man-eaters and Seeker. All right. Yeah, so that's it. Let me know if you have any questions down below. And as I mentioned, you don't need Turvold in this comp. You can swap Turvold with a different champion, but the speeds will be different. And I personally don't think it's worth using the other comp with because if you have this champions, you might as well use a Bat Eater, for example, rather than this other comp. But yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions. Goodbye.